الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. Assalamu alaikum, my dear friends. I hope you are well and that you are in a good state of health and a fairly good state of material comfort. And if not, I pray to Almighty Allah that He will grant you your du'as and restore you to a state of reasonable comfort and health, inshallah. Today I want to continue but also perhaps conclude a discussion which I started about 2 episodes ago. And I believe I have an amazing treat for you. I have something very interesting and I believe exciting for those who are thirsty and hungry for understanding and for knowledge and for answers. Now, the previous discussion I had with you could have been seen as contentious. You see, it is difficult in when people learn, then there is what we call troublesome knowledge. There's knowledge that is counterintuitive. There's knowledge that you arrive at, and no matter whether all the signs are pointing to the reality or the factuality of that knowledge, there is something in your fabric and in your fiber that just seems to rebel or reject that knowledge. Now, I'm not here to say that the things that I have presented or theorized are unquestionable and beyond any, scrutiny. I welcome it. I welcome scrutiny. That is how we learn, is if people make an assertion, comes up with a proposition, comes up with a postulate, then other people use their knowledge and their understanding to question it and to come up with a debunking or a counter or refutation of that problem. And some of the greatest scholars in Muslim history did exactly that. If you look at Ibn Rushd, Averroes, the great Muslim philosopher from Spain, and then was a contemporary of Al-Ghazali, the great philosopher of I think Persia. And how these two had a very vibrant debate. They are still, the books are still there, the postulates or the ideas or the theories advanced by Ibn Rushd, and then the counter ideas or the refutations advanced by Al-Ghazali, and then the toing and froing. And who are the beneficiaries? You see, the beneficiaries is actually the overall state of understanding of the Muslim or the community of people. So we can never deny or reject the idea of putting forward ideas which are born from a genuine and a critical intention or hunger for knowledge. So we come then back to the question that I've posed in the previous episodes, namely the features and the actual sort of nature of what we call the jinn. JNN, Jim Nun Nun, the concealed, the hidden, the shrouded. Because that is the general idea what the word jinn means. It's the shrouded, the concealed, the hidden, the extraneous. So I use the word which is broad, and we need to understand this word because this word has been simply been assumed to be demonic creatures. Now let me again say that I am not today here telling you that there are no such a thing as demonic creatures. I don't deny that the existence of those creatures. I don't deny that they may be in existence. What I do deny is that if we read the words, the verses of the Quran, it does appear as if these beings are in constant interaction with ordinary people. So you find verses in the Quran that says that ordinary men seek support and help and refuge in the jinn. And the jinn are influencing these ordinary men. And so there's a common healthy interaction between the two. And so when I think about a demonic creature or a fiery demonic creature, which people think is the only meaning of the word jinn, then they reduce the meaning to that particular word or that particular meaning. And what I'm telling you is that when I see the way the word jinn is used in the Quran, I see a constant interaction. And so I'm searching, because the Quran is a book that is firmly based in reality. The Quran is not based in some different reality to our reality. And when I see the verses of interaction between jinn and men, it doesn't tally with my reality. If it tallies with your reality, then fine. If you live in a society and a world where you are visited by the jinn as demonic spirits, well and good. All I'm saying is that it doesn't exist in my reality. I do not have any evidence of such creatures in my reality. Do they exist? Perhaps. But I don't have evidence. And I need to make the Quran real for me. And I need to make the concept of the jinn real for me. And that is why I cannot, even the clergy, even the priests, the Muslim clergy, if you listen to their views on the jinn, they normally dismiss, if people come to them with jinn stories, they dismiss it. Because even clergy, you can go and look it up, they regard 99% of people's experiences with the jinn as false. So I'm giving you that as a sort of an introduction, that the reason I am spending so much time on this term is because I need to make this term work in my reality. And I do believe, I hold the assumption that every element and every aspect of the Quran, especially those that are fairly common, must have basis in my reality. Right. So what I've done is I have applied certain methods of reasoning and reflection by looking at all the occurrences of the word in the Holy Quran. And in the previous videos, I have made some, I've advanced some theories or some suggestions as to what I would suggest the jinn really means. And what I've done is I've said that, look, the jinn could mean a spirit, a non-human spirit, yes, but we will park that idea because I'm not here to reject any reasonable, valid, alternative explanation. But remember, the Quran is a rich text, and one of the features of the Quran is the superimposed shades of meaning you find in many of the verses, maybe even all the verses. So the Quran is a wealth of information from which you can extract multiple meanings from the same text. And so when I say that, yes, the possibility of jinn being a non-human spirit, yes, fine, that's fine. I'm not rejecting the possibility of that. But what I'm doing is I'm seeking a meaning that has relevance to me. And that is where I came with the alternative meanings that I have presented to you previously. And those alternative meanings would be the jinn as an extraordinary, exceptional human being. Somebody of unusual capacity and capability, or somebody beyond the ordinary. Right? Men who are usual men, and men who are unusual. And that is the meaning that I've been advancing. Men who are men, ordinary men, and men who are beyond ordinary men. So I think I've used several terms now to give you an idea, the idea of the beyond, of the man beyond. There's a translation, a modern translation by Sam Gerrans, where he translates the word jinn as the domini. The domini. So the domini, I get the impression, and it's a very, I think the word needs a bit better explanation, understanding. I haven't taken much time to look at the word, but the word domini, if I understand him correctly, would be ordinary men and dominant men. The dominant people and the ordinary people and the dominant people, right? So he uses the word domini. Also Muhammad Asad, in his translation, he looks at the word jinn in a much more rational way, right? So I'm not coming to you with a fringe or a unique interpretation. There are others who have looked at this meaning. Muhammad Ali also, the translator also. Yes, he is an Ahmadi translator, but well, he's been a scholar before he was an Ahmadi. So I was, and plus I do not really regard that as a very relevant point of criticism. So let me then proceed. What I want to offer you in this particular episode, and it's going to take maybe a few minutes longer than usual, is I have made a full translation, because only when you take the meaning to the Quran and you insert it in the text, that meaning, are you able to find if it is in harmony with the text. If you insert fringe and batiniya type of fringe interpretations, and I'm not a batini, the batiniya are those who go and seek hidden meanings all over the place. No. That's not me. I seek real and relevant meanings in the Quran, and that are true to the book, not strange or alien to the reading of the book. So let me then look at the surah that is titled Surah Jinn. Fortunately, the Quran actually has a chapter 72, that is titled Surah Jinn. And I'm going to read through this chapter with you. And you are welcome now to go to this chapter with me. And I hope you'll find it interesting and enriching, because the Quran for me, if you sometimes, not always, but you can really feel a thrill coming through when you read it and you realize this is divine. This is not man-made. It cannot be man-made. Let us go through it. And just as an introduction, what I want to offer you is, I want to first tell you that the translation that I've used now is because it was very difficult for me to think of jinn, one word for jinn, right? I wanted to get to a word that accurately reflects that idea of somebody that is beyond. Now, let me just give you another way of thinking about this problem. We never realize how common metaphor means relating reality to alternative ideas or images, right? So a metaphor, I hope I've interpreted the word metaphor, but if I say to somebody, you dog, or you pig, I'm not, in language, it doesn't mean he's a pig or a dog. I'm using metaphor, right? The same as, there's a television program that was originated in Japan. It is very popular in Britain also. You can see it on, I think, on Channel 4 or on ITV. I'm not sure. Dragon's Den. Dragon's Den. Go and look it up if you haven't seen it. It's quite interesting. But Dragon's Den is a program where several very powerful and wealthy men actually entertain offers of businesses which an ordinary man comes to present, or ordinary man or woman comes to present to them. Now that program is called Dragon's Den. I think it's BBC, I'm not sure now. But what happens in Dragon's Den is the dragons sit, there's 4 or 5 of them. They are there, they supervise the poor seeker seeking an investment, and this person comes and pitches them. Now in that program they are called dragons. They are called dragons. Why? Because it's metaphor. They are regarded as powerful, influential men and women with skill and abilities that go beyond the ordinary person who comes into and they call it the Dragon's Den. Now imagine if somebody from outer space or somebody from 1,000 years in the future watches or reads the script of Dragon's Den, and they hear the man came into the den and spoke to the 5 dragons. Can you see what I mean? The man came into the den of the dragons and spoke to the 5 dragons, and the dragons were quite nasty with him, and the dragons rejected him, and the dragons tore him to pieces. Listen to the language here. The dragons tore him to pieces. These are all metaphor, my dear brothers and sisters. These are all metaphor. There are no real dragons, and they did not literally tear the man to pieces. But if you read that text in 1,000 years and you are reading it without a complicated or a complex, with an intelligent mind, you're going to interpret it like a silly idiot and say that there were dragons living in the year 2022. Here it's written in the text. Do you understand what I'm saying? Metaphor is an important part of language, and the Quran did not come in any other but the human dialect, the human language that people were speaking. So if I tell you you're running up and down like a demon here, you're a real demon. If I say that to somebody, you're a real demon, doesn't mean they're a demon. You know, if you're in America and you speak about I think there's a rugby, a football club called the Devils, I think. I'm not sure now. Doesn't mean that these people are devils. In South Africa, we have a very prominent rugby team called the Sharks. Doesn't mean that they are sharks. It just means that they are aggressive, they are domineering, and it's a good analogy or a good metaphor to apply to a team of rugby players. All right. So metaphor is very common in language. And so now with those ideas and understandings, I want you to think that the Quran is written in Arabic. Analogy or metaphor is very common in the Quran. And when Allah says there are certain jinn, they are jinn, it could mean actually that these are very powerful and vibrant, or be men or women and men who are beyond the ordinary. Okay, let's move to the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أوحي إلي أنه استمع نفر من الجن فقالوا إنا سمعنا قرآنا عجبا. In the name of Allah, the kind master of all fortunes, inform them of the following. It was revealed to me that a select party of people from beyond listened in, then remarked, what an amazing recital is this we hear. Now here I have translated the word select party of people from beyond. The word jinn here translated as a group of people that are not here, not of our type, not of the regular ins, because the word ins in the Holy Text is used very specifically along with the word jinn. You see, the word insan would normally be used for human being, humanity in general. But when the word ins is used in the text, it is always in relation to jinn. So it is almost like ins as regular people or now people, known people, and then jinn as unknown people, unusual people. So jinn and ins are always used together, right? The word jinn and ins always used together. Right. Jinn sometimes alone, but as a rule, these two are always linked. The word ins never on its own, always coupled with jinn. When insan is used, it's used in the generality of all people. So what do we mean by beyond? Here comes the interesting part now. You see, my understanding of this chapter, and you're going to see it now as we go through it, you're going to see what a beautiful meaning comes out here. My understanding of this chapter is that it says here, uhiya, right? Uhiya. You can see there the word on top is uhiya. Now, when the Quran says uhiya, the Prophet is saying, listen, I need to tell you something. The Quran says kul, in other words, say to them, tell them. Uhiya, there's a wahi. There's a wahi that came, and a vision. A wahi is also a vision, an indication is given to me. I've received a vision of a group of people who listen to the Quran. Now here comes my reading of this chapter. And this is something that blew my mind. I can just tell you that, because it actually makes sense if you read it, if you take this understanding. This chapter, Surah Jinn, chapter 72, refers to a vision that the Prophet was given of men and women who live beyond his place and time. This chapter, Surah Jinn, relates a story or a vision that the Prophet received, a truthful vision, because the wahi of the Prophet are truthful. They are true. These are true visions. And he was given a true vision of a future distant human colony or people. Let that sink in. Uhiya ilayya annahu istama'a nafarun min al-jinn. A people beyond. A people from beyond listened in, then remarked, what an amazing recital is this. A people beyond the time and the place in which the Prophet was, in other words, in Mecca at this point, has listened in and has remarked, wow, this is an amazing text. This is an amazing text. And these people from beyond a time in the future, at a distant point, distant place from the Prophet's present position where he is speaking from. He says, these people told him that a recital that contains sound directions, which we hence embrace. And those people in the distant future and in a distant place that he sees in his vision says that we embrace this and we cease any further interference with the divine authority of our true Lord and Sustainer. These people who live in the beyond, in another time and place, have heard the Quran, and have accepted it. So that is the meaning we get there, is that a people in the beyond, which the Prophet sees in a vision, has in fact. So the first thing that I'm telling you that is differing from the regular explanation of tafsir of the verse is that these are not people that passed by in Medina or Mecca and the prophets met them and nobody else saw them and they were this mysterious group of demons or spirits. No, it doesn't tally with reality. Right. So let me take this interpretation further. وَأَنَّهُ تَعَالَى جَدُّ رَبَّنَا مَا اتَّخَذَ صَاحِبَةً وَلَا وَلَدًا. And these jinn, these people beyond, these people who exist in the beyond, in a different time and place, say that we now declare that Allah is exalted in His majesty. He is the true Lord and sustainer, the true Rabb of ours, and that He never adopted any partner or son. And so in other words, they now abandon any idea that there are partners or there are people who share the majesty and the lordship and the mastership of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The verse continues, that the gullible were those amongst us who held fringe views about Allah. So these people in the beyond have read the Quran. They have now relinquished their false understandings, their false beliefs, and they concede that there were gullible people who always fell for the false interpretations of what Allah or the Godhead or the Creator or the Rahman, what his nature was. وَأَنَّا ظَنَنَّا أَن لَن تَقُولَ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا. Now here comes an interesting point here. That we thought that regular people and people beyond, now I'm translating ins wal jinn, regular people and people beyond, could never both maintain such a major lie about Allah. What they said is that they in their beyond place, which the Prophet sees the vision, and he hears and he sees their speech. He sees their speech. He hears in the vision, in the wahi, he hears their speech. They claim that they would never have thought that these massive lies, the Trinity, the idea that Hadith is wahi of Allah, the idea that there's a chosen people, all these major lies, the idea that, there is no God, atheism, all these massive lies, they could not believe that such major lies could be so powerfully transmitted by both people then and people beyond. So by all generations, by the people of then and the people of other times, right? So now they are saying that present men and beyond people all promoted these lies. And we never could think that lies could be multi-generationally transmitted over epochs, over centuries, over millennia. The jinn would be the people who live in other millennia, and the ins would be the people of now. And what they are saying in this verse is that we are surprised. We never realized, and we are now converted, but the fact of the matter is lies are carried across millennia and across epochs, across different time and different spaces. وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِنَ الْإِنسِ يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِنَ الْجِنِّ فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. That regular people sought refuge from people beyond. Yes, what it says here is that we thought that regular people could never both maintain, and then that regular people sought refuge from people beyond, which only increased their miserable state. وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِنَ الْإِنسِ يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِنَ الْجِنِّ فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. So it is people of the present, seeking redemption and protection from people beyond. That those beyond made a wrongful supposition, as you now, namely that Allah was not going to return anyone. They denied judgment, all of them. The men and the jinn denied that there will be final judgment. The men, the ordinary men and the jinn. So the men and the men beyond all denied judgment. وَأَنَّا لَمَسْنَا السَّمَاءَ. Right, now comes the exciting part, interesting part. The Prophet is still in his vision. My brothers and sisters, this is powerful now. The Prophet is in his vision. Right, he's explaining the vision. He's telling people, because the Quran says, قُلْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ. The Quran says, tell them this vision you saw. And this is the vision the Prophet has seen. He relates his vision now, and he speaks now in the voice of the jinn. The voice of the jinn, the men beyond. This is the voice of the jinn now, the men beyond, the people beyond, that he sees in a vision. And you know what? I want you to imagine the year 2022 now. I want you to imagine the Prophet is seeing a vision of us, of in our times. The Prophet is seeing a vision of people beyond, of our people, of these nations that we are experiencing today. And when we speak about the jinn, I'm referring to these people, the generation beyond, of powerful and, very, very accomplished people. وَأَنَّا لَمَسْنَا السَّمَاءَ. Now the vision is about the future, and the vision now reads that we hear, anna, we the jinn, in the beyond, were able to reach space. Lamasna as-sama. We were able to reach space, but we found it full of strong guards. وَمُلِئَتْ حَرَسًا شَدِيدًا وَشُهُبًا. We found space to be filled with strong guards and race. Now, just an aside quickly, I want to just again point you to a fact of nature, or a fact of space travel that is also a recently modern discovery. I want us to look at what we call the phenomenon of the Van Allen belt around the planet. Have a look at this, and then we can discuss.
There's an invisible magnetic force field surrounding our planet, protecting us from harmful solar winds that could annihilate Earth. But this protective blanket is also a swirling ring full of deadly radiation. And to leave Earth's atmosphere, astronauts have to pass through it. The Van Allen belts are rings of energetically charged particles that have been captured by Earth's magnetic field. They got their name from this physicist, James Van Allen. Back in the 1950s, Van Allen launched a Raccoon, a rocket lifted by a balloon above the atmosphere, and it detected the first hint of radiation at higher altitudes. Then, Explorer 1, the first American satellite to orbit Earth, launched January 13, 1958. Explorer 1 confirmed that Earth's magnetosphere was trapping the subatomic particles. The Van Allen belts were the first major scientific discovery of the early space age, and they posed a serious challenge for space travel. High-speed subatomic particles can tear through DNA, increasing the risks of cancer and other diseases.
And we say that in this vision that the Prophet has seen. He says that we here in the beyond were able to reach space, but found it full of strong guards and rays. Harasan shadida wa shuhuba. Rays or bolts that will strike you. Wa anna kunna nak'adu minha maqa'ida lis-sam'i. We were able to construct stations. We were able to construct stations for the monitoring of space. What those who monitor space found at this time was that space contains destructive rays. What those who monitor space, those man, whosoever, yastami'ul an, at this time, yajid lahu, in those maka'id, in the place where they are based, we found at this time that space contains destructive rays. Are you with me still? We are looking at the meaning of Surah Jinn, and we are seeing a vision. The Prophet is narrating a vision of a future people, a people that are beyond the people that are, that an unusual people that were able to reach space. It's not the jinn, it's not fiery creatures. I'm going to go up till that point and then ask you, you've seen the text. I've shown you the words here. For a prophet who is living in the year 600 of the Common Era, a world that is very oppressive, a world where he is a small minority, where he is being oppressed, and further on, it does make mention of his oppression. They gang up against him. And then when one devoted purely to Allah appeals to him alone, they gang up against him. So the Prophet is speaking as a very vulnerable minority here. His experience at this point is one of an oppressed and marginalized minority trying to establish the idea that Allah does not have partners, that there is no partnership in Allah, that all these effigies, all these Lat and Uzza and Manat and all these false beliefs, the Son of God and Jesus as being the Son and the partner of Allah, all of these false beliefs, the Prophet is inundated, he's overwhelmed by it, he sees it, he's observing it, everywhere he looks there's shirk. And it comes to him in a vision, in a different time, in 1,000 years, in the year 2022 perhaps. People are mighty, people are traveling into space, people are touching space. They've gone beyond the earth, and they have adopted and embraced his message, the Quran. They have endorsed it, even at that time. And what a comfort this must be to the Prophet, when he sits there dejected, feeling so oppressed, feeling so small and so weak, being ganged up, as the verse says there, and yet getting the reassurance that there are jinn, that there are people beyond, in another time, in 1,000 years, that are hearkening, that are listening, that are becoming Muslim, and that are obeying him, and that have abandoned all forms of partnership and shirk with Allah. And so what somebody has asked me, is the jinn necessarily all evil? No, the jinn, as we can see in Surah Jinn, is there are jinn that are evil and there are jinn that are righteous people. So I leave that to you, and inshallah, you know what? We are seeking, we are trying to understand the Holy Quran. I am not denying any other interpretation, but I'm offering you this, my work, my ijtihad, my effort, my intellectual effort leads me to this understanding. And alhamdulillah, I feel so inspired, encouraged when I see these words coming out. You know, the idea of space travel, the idea of the Van Allen belts being confirmed in the Quran. And these things increase me in Iman and in faith. And I hope it will do so for you also. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.